much for joining us today on Feelin Good, sponsored by Warren County Community Services. I'm your host, Shelly Abrams, and today is a very special day. I think you'll find very interesting. I'm anxious to talk with our guest, and our guest is none other but Congressman-elect Landsman. Greg Landsman is here in Warren County today. Greg, thank you so much for joining us. I've been looking forward to sitting down and actually learning more about our new congressman. Congratulations.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this as well. And part of what gets, and I didn't have any sense for this, but after the election, you immediately go to Washington for training because they want you to be ready on day one, and the training is several weeks, and so just to be back home and getting a chance to reconnect with folks, and so it's been nice.
Very good. So you have already been to Washington for training.
Yeah, so they start immediately after the election. They fly everyone up to D.C. You are trained on everything from your staffing in the office to how a bill really gets
Becomes
passed,
a law.
and how the committee process works. You have to vote on leadership for the caucus, the Democratic caucus. The Republicans do that, and then in January we vote on a speaker. So it's a lot of training, several weeks, and it's a wonderful experience. But I also really like being home. I'm still on city council. I've got a few days left. Next week is my last week, and I've got a bunch of stuff we're trying to get done before I have to resign from city council.
Okay.
Just being home is I think one of the things I'm going to appreciate most about this job. You go to Washington every week for a couple days. You vote. Obviously, those votes really have to count in terms of helping folks back here. Right. And then for me, it'll be getting on a plane, coming home, and doing the work back here, being with all of you. That's what I'll enjoy the most.
Very good. Well, speaking of home, I would love for you to share with our audience and with me your journey and how you started and where you started to where you are today. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I was raised by teachers. My parents were teachers, and ultimately I was a teacher. I'm a big believer in education. I come by it honestly. That's was a big part of growing up, is the role that education plays, the importance of investing in children. And so I've been doing education, child advocacy, one way or the other, most of my career. Led a ballot measure in Cincinnati called the Preschool Promise, which provides 2 years of quality preschool. So 3 and 4 year olds in Cincinnati have preschool, as my kids did. My kids at the time were in preschool. It was clearly having an impact on them, and they both showed up to kindergarten prepared. They knew their letters, they knew their numbers, they just behaviorally we're in a good place, and a large part of that was good quality childcare and preschool, and appreciating that Cincinnati is the kind of place where you can have a big idea and go get it done. We worked with this big coalition of folks, to Republicans, Democrats, business leaders, labor leaders, to say every kid in the city should get 2 years of quality preschool. We should help families pay for it because it's very expensive, yet very important. And we passed it. Now the vast majority of kids in Cincinnati are getting 2 years of quality preschool, and they're showing up more prepared, which means our schools are going to get better, in addition to those kids doing better. So, I've had a lot of wonderful jobs over the years, all of them have had sort of a similar aspect to them, which is they're all service oriented, focused on large community problems or opportunities, and serving in Congress, I think, is just an extension of that. I've been at City Hall doing that kind of work. I've worked on multiple ballot measures. Service, particularly for children and families, has always been my passion and what I love working on the most.
Very good, very good. Well, I too am an educator by degree, and I too am drawn to organizations such as Warren County Community Services with their early Head Start programs that they offer through the agency, and then their wide-ranging services up and including to all the folks that are 65 and older, which we were talking the other day in the demographic shifting of our population. The over 65 age group is now going to be the largest group in history. And for that reason, I thought today we would also touch upon and maybe delve into things that you heard maybe during the campaign that people from the Congressional District 1 are opening up to you about, needing help with or hoping to see more bills initiated to support different efforts, that kind of thing. And I thought that we would start with maybe just the new year, 2023. What are you thinking as you go to DC? The kinds of bills, the kinds of committees that you might be sitting on?
Well, great questions. I mean, I think politics oftentimes is a lot about what we disagree about, and we get focused on. It's hard not to the things that are divisive, where there's a real clash. That's what gets covered, and when you campaign or when you're out in the community as much as I am, you actually see the opposite, which is all of the areas where we have shared values and shared interests. That's what you hear the most of, and there were three in this campaign that I don't think are very different from previous campaigns, but folks are across the board are worried about being able to pay for everything, right? It's just, with incomes here and costs up here, it's becoming, or it's been very difficult for folks to pay for all of their bills. When they get sick or their family member gets sick, they want to make sure that is covered, that that it's not going to bankrupt them.
Right.
And if somebody, in their life is struggling, they want to be able to care for them, right? Those are three of many things where there's just so much shared interest and experiences, and so, in this next Congress, my expectation is that there's going to be a majority of Republicans and Democrats that are willing to work together to, help with costs, help with wages, help with care, help with health care. And so, that means, the child tax credit or the earned income tax credit. How do we make sure that we expand those opportunities for folks so that they are able to pay for their bills? I mean, I know that there are some who want to mess with Social Security or Medicare. I believe that I don't think that will happen. They won't be successful. The vast majority of us are committed, as the country is, to protecting, if not expanding, what we provide in terms of Social Security, what you all we all have paid into
Right.
in terms of Social Security and Medicare. And so, those are going to be really big opportunities for this next Congress to say, no, we're going to be all in on Social Security. We're not going to mess with it. We're going to be all in on Medicare. We're not going to mess with it. We're going to be really serious about helping families during this economic downturn, or with all of this economic uncertainty, whether that's the child tax credit, some version that can be supported in a bipartisan way, or the earned income tax credit, or other ways to help folks pay for all of their bills. These are working folks who are doing everything in their power to pay for the basics, and to make sure that no one messes with people's health care, and we do more to cover more people in more ways.
Very good. Well, it sounds as if it's a monumental task. However, I think that you would welcome input from those of us that live in your your district.
We're going to do a 100-day tour around the district to get things started, so that we start by listening. I'll always, as I said, I plan on being home. And by home, I don't mean at my house. I mean, in the district working.
Right.
But the first 100 days will be a lot of us doing town halls and meetings and all kinds of, things where we are hearing and then activating on what we hear from folks.
Because I know often in different organizations and different projects I've been involved in, where, for instance, right now I'm a member of League of Women Voters.
Yeah.
And we're always encouraging people to be informed and to write to your congressman and to, stay engaged. And I'm happy to hear that you're going to be doing this listening tour, because sometimes you feel like, I wonder how far those form letters get. That you sign online.
Well, that's a problem.
And even even when we were talking during the campaign, you think, does this really go anywhere?
It's such a problem for folks to feel that way. It's a terrible feeling. And, I think it's really important for everyone to keep in mind that, we pay the salaries of our elected officials. They work for us. And those offices are paid for with our tax dollars. And to ever feel like, can our elected officials, as a member of council, it's a little bit easier for me to interact with, more of my constituents.
Right.
And I try to respond to every email or return every phone call. That's going to become more and more difficult. But should anyone feel the way you do, or a lot of people do, that maybe no one's even seeing this, is hugely problematic for a democracy.
Well, just know that I would think that you would realize that there are those of us that are very engaged and want to be more engaged. And so we look forward to those opportunities to be able to listen as well.
I think these town halls that we'll do, there'll be a lot of people who show up because, and I don't think they expect that I'm going to agree with them on everything, or vice versa, although maybe something they say, updates or helps me evolve my thinking on something. I think the expectation is what my expectation would be: show up, in my community, make it easy for me, and, listen.
Now, have you set up an office, or are you going to have satellite offices throughout the district?
Yeah, so we'll We'll be here in Lebanon.
Okay.
We'll keep Congressman Shabbat's office, right here. So we'll be in downtown Lebanon. We'll also have an office in Hamilton County. We haven't finalized that spot yet.
Okay.
And but in addition to being able to drive up, walk in, spend time with us, get help, weigh in, shout, yell at us, all of those things. We plan on being very much. I think government has to do a better job meeting people where they are, figuratively and literally, and so that means, being where they are online, offering Zooms, and being where they are in terms of, not just going to the community center and having a town hall, but if somebody says, hey, I'm hosting a conversation at my house about, our elections. Can you come and be part of that conversation? You do everything in your power to try to do that. That's somebody saying, here's where we are. Come to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that they're interested.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
they want to talk to you. Well, I know one of the issues, and I actually have I always hold this up. I always have a copy of ARP. The latest. This isn't the latest, but the ARP bulletin. This was one though that the truth about aging, and that's why I brought it, because I think that aging takes on a whole different, kind of feeling now, because we hope to, and many people are living longer, so they have issues. They're encountering issues that maybe they never really anticipated. We currently have an interview online that's running regarding caregiving. And when we were talking about caregiving, then we were talking about, well, you should really do those kinds of things prior to needing, those kinds of services. So, we're trying to become more familiar with kind of transitioning, and from maybe the retirement, what we thought of when our grandparents retired or our parents retired. Retirement these days, when I retired, it just gave me more time to do more things that I was passionate about. And I know just in talking here in the station, we were talking about that. Well, what's your life reimagined now that you're retiring from one? You're going to other kinds of things. So with that being said, I feel like we are ready. The seniors are ready to be more involved. And I've been reading more articles about intergenerational kinds of projects where there's really, even companies are seeing the value of having more older mentors there to help bring on board their, senior managers, middle managers, and so on. And then we're seeing intergenerational kinds of things, even in senior living, where they have the nursery schools, and then they have the, at some of the facilities and so on. And I just see lots of opportunity, don't you, for more. And you talked about it, bringing people together, more collaboration among the different age groups and so on, and not so much division.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think we all learn from each other, even across age groups, across generations, and then, two, you just get more done. You're gonna make a lot more progress the bigger your coalition, the bigger the your group is. Mm-hmm. So I hope we see more of that. Certainly in politics. Politics is one of those places where my grandparents and parents are very important. They offer very unique perspectives on a bunch of things. I think my generation, sort of the Gen X generation, has some things to offer.
Right.
I think about what millennials and then the Gen Z generation. Each of us have things that we're really good at, or that we have a unique perspective on because of just what we lived through. We each also have limitations on what we can see, what's possible because of what we've experienced. Now, if you start plugging everyone together, those limitations start to diminish pretty quickly.
Right. Well, I look forward to that kind of perspective, because I think there's so much to be gained from the collaboration. I'm a huge proponent of collaboration when it comes to community issues and that kind of thing. One that in particular that has been in the headlines is housing and affordable housing.
Yeah.
And ARP has livable communities that I'm hoping to actually personally get involved in, because it's where you actually walk around your community and do an audit to see how livable your community is based upon infrastructure, housing availability and affordability, services that are offered, and for all age groups. So the more livable communities are those communities that have a broader scope when it comes to planning, community planning, and so forth. So ARP has a whole livability, community livability project that I'd love to see our district get more involved in, and I think that's more city by city.
Well, but this is where I think having a reliable federal partner can be helpful, because in Southwest Ohio we have multiple cities, townships, counties, and to the extent our office can be helpful in lifting it up and bringing people together and connecting those dots, we want to do that.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to know that your office is going to be at a familiar location.
Yeah, I think it was important for people to, that's where folks know in Warren County that their congressional office is. People spend a lot of time here. There's, good food. And if they go to dinner, they'll see the sign, they'll think, oh, okay, well, if I have an issue, that's, it's a saying, call your congressman for a reason.
Right.
That's what our job is sort of 1 part voting and 5 parts just helping people,
Well, how's your family feeling about all this? They must be very proud of your election results, I'm sure, but the family has to be supportive and all in for the long haul.
They always have been. My wife has always been very supportive. She has a really big career and somehow still finds a way to make our lives work. She's a very remarkable person. And the kids, our son Elijah's 11, and our daughter Maddie is 12, almost 13. So they understand what's going on, and that's really neat to see. That they've been part. I've been in, politics, public service all their lives. Whether it was a ballot measure, and I was campaigning for that, or it was city council or Congress. But the older they get, each year they understand it a little bit more. They start to participate in it a little bit more, not just showing up to things, but I mean like offering perspective. My last day, my last council meeting was yesterday.
Oh.
My last day at City Hall will be Monday, but my last council meeting was yesterday, and I was just talking with my daughter the night before Tuesday night, and she was saying, "How do you feel about it?" And what are you thinking you'll say? And I said, I don't know. She said, well, you need to know what you're going to say. And I said, well, Maddie, it's tomorrow. I'm going to obviously, have a plan. Before I go in there. I said, what do you think I should say? And she just rattled off exactly what I ended up saying. Which was, I think you should say that, you're grateful, right? Because, you are, to everyone and the people you work with. I think it's, they should hear that. And I said, that's 100% right. And you should talk about what you did, and then you should talk about what, you're planning to do, what you're planning to do with all of them. That's exactly what I ended up going in there and saying. So that was all her.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds like she may be running some
or
campaign manager. Who knows?
I mean, that would be neat to work with. That is one thing I would love doing is working with my kids. Mm-hmm. I think it would be so cool, and that may be me doing something with whatever they're working on,
right,
as opposed to them working with me. But right. I think it's just that she's got good judgment. Like she's just she's a smart, really interesting kid. But I'm biased, she's my daughter.
But so. I mean, very perceptive that you draw on her wisdom, and that it just happened to fit in perfectly. With your closing remarks. Yeah, and
that
so
was but those were the that's the fundamentals.
Right.
And sometimes we overthink things.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I think those of us who, today when I was getting ready for this interview, I was like, okay, so do I ask, 10 specific questions, or do I just have a conversation and allow the topics to evolve as they will, which is what I decided to do. And I just felt this was a good opportunity for Warren County and those folks that see our show on ICRC on Cincinnati channels as well, for them to get to know you better, and for them to feel welcome at your offices where they're going to be located, kind of what your viewpoint is on different issues, because transitioning into a new year with a new person, a new person here in this neck of the woods, I think is very refreshing.
Yeah.
And filled with
it's again, like promise. I said, the part that I enjoy the most. It's the part I love. Mm-hmm. It's meeting new people. If you're in public service, you should really only do it because you want to do the service part. And so then it's meeting people, but then trying to figure out, how do I be helpful? What does help look like? And then just working on that with them. And so, being able to have a bigger sort of space to do that. I mean, I've been doing that in the city of Cincinnati on council for the last 5 years, but, for many years in addition to that, before I was on council, and now it's, these new communities, right. And it's really exciting to get in and into those communities, and some folks, but you're bound to meet all of these new and incredible people who will ultimately be big parts of your life for a long time. Right.
Well, we were just driving in from I-75, made a stop at the bakery, Central Pastry in Middletown, to pick up Christmas goodies, and came across on Route 63. And I had not actually driven that for quite a while. I used to drive that all the time, but now I come 42 from Mason to Lebanon. And when we came in today, all the development that's
Yeah.
going on.
It's the fastest. Well, I think it's the fastest growing county in the state.
Yes, and so here you are. You're entering the fastest growing county in the state, or at least it might be the second fastest growing. I don't know. Delaware County,
Is
I
it
think
Delaware
is
would
right.
be the other
Well,
one, yeah.
I think Warren is right up there.
I think Warren's
yes,
high. Yeah.
Yes,
Somebody
yes.
told me yesterday it was
Yeah.
the fastest growing.
Yeah, I was reading the articles, but developing and doing smart development, I think, is crucial, and I think that with the farmland, you go to places in Ohio where there's still farmland, and then infrastructure. You see that that's where developers are looking, but they're looking for great school districts, which I received great information the other day. I live in Mason, and Mason sent out a wealth of information about the school district. I know Lebanon and all different schools where I've either volunteered or I've taught throughout Warren County and Cincinnati. That new people looking at where they want to set their lives up. They want that good, strong school district for their
Always,
families and
yeah.
always for the
Yeah.
values on their
Yeah,
property.
I think so much of what we should be thinking about is, and I talk about it all the time, and it's been the focus of my work, always will be, is how do you make it easier to raise a family? I mean, how do you make a great place to raise a family? If you do that, it's going to be good for everybody. I think it's the most reliable strategy to make a place great is to make it a wonderful place to raise a family, and so that means making sure that you're investing in really good wages and attracting jobs that pay really good wages, that you are making things affordable for folks, and that from housing to healthcare. And in that community, you're investing in the things that are going to be shared, whether it's parks or playgrounds. They all add up, and part of making sure that it's a great place is making sure that people are safe, and so less of an issue in Warren than it is in places in Hamilton County, but we have serious issues with gun violence. And so investing in police and the anti-gun work, violence work that we're doing is going to be a big part of our priorities, because you can have all of these other things that make it wonderful for kids and to a place to raise a family, but if folks aren't safe, then it doesn't really matter. So safety has to be paramount.
Right. And I will say along those lines, I'm happy to see that more school districts are investing more in mental health.
Yeah.
I've always been a mental health advocate. When I taught, part of my curriculum was to make home visits. And it was only if, the parents would ask you, students would ask you to come to their home, or the parents would come and have a home visit in your classroom and so forth. And you would get to know more about the families. Now, this was a vocational. I taught home economics at the time.
Oh, you did?
And it was part of the vocational unit that you spent 2 weeks before school started, 2 weeks following school, that you actually, like you're going to do, get to know your students through getting to know their families more.
It's so important.
And it makes a big,
You're
big
building
difference.
community too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that was back in the 70s when I was, like 73, 4, 5, 6, when I taught full time in Forest Park, actually. And even then, I was an advocate in Warren County. Wherever I went, I said, I think you have to look at the whole student, not just the academics, but you need to see what is going on with them before they come to school, while they're at school, after school. And I am finally, it only took 50 years, but I'm finally happy to see that mental health is being addressed as part of the whole person in our school systems.
When I first started teaching, I had a veteran teacher say, look, there's a million ways to, teach something, and you'll find your way. But the key is to make sure kids want to learn. And they're only going to want to learn if you've made some sort of connection with them. For most kids, some kids maybe not, but for most kids, they will be more likely to get into the whatever it is you're teaching and learn it if you've connected with them. Right. And that does require getting to know them and understanding who they are and what makes them unique, and making sure that they understand that you appreciate their value. That goes for everybody. I mean, that's everyone in life, right. But certainly young people, and that's a big part of what you're talking about, is just understanding that particular student in a way that allows you to take something that you might be teaching everybody, but make sure it works for him in particular, right, or her in particular,
right. And the young, when you talk about preschool promise, my grandkids are in first and second grade. I remember when they were in preschool, and where I went to a little program last night of first grade where they're having a little theater club, like a little drama club after school, and they put on a little skit, and it was so great to see the confidence of these first graders. And I was like there with, giving the heads up to my granddaughter, but they were all doing a great job. And I thought how wonderful it is to see all young children get a good start with preschool, and then what a big difference it makes as Huge. They enter kindergarten. Huge. And then on through the grades and so forth. So it's really great to get to know you. I think having this time to really just have a little chat here.
Well, we're just going to be down the street, so whenever if you want me to stop by, or if we have something to announce, maybe we can just pop in.
Great. Oh my gosh, that's great. We've got that on tape now.
Yeah,
so that's
of course.
Good. I will definitely follow up and call you. Are there any future kinds of things? When's your swearing in? The actual date of that?
January 3rd. Okay. We're sworn in D.C., and then we'll have a sort of a local swearing in. Okay. On the 19th of January. Mm-hmm. We'll do that downtown in Cincinnati. We'll have a lunch, but then a reception up here in the office. So
great.
Anyone can come in.
Oh, great. Yeah. Wonderful. Contact information. Do you want to give out any contact information right now? Or
at the moment, I believe it is just, the house number. So we're going to be in office Longworth 1432. That's the office number. So office number 1432 Longworth, and then so that's the address for in DC. And then we're going to keep this office in Lebanon. I'm hoping it'll be the same number. Okay. So we've asked for the same numbers so that if you're used to calling Congressman Shabbat, it won't be, you won't have to learn a new number, but either way, it'll be very easy to find us here in Lebanon, because, we'll be on Main Street, right. And then in D.C. and Longworth.
Okay. Yeah. We were just there in June for a conference in D.C., and it's always so inspiring to just sort of soak in all the history, and we actually were in line to go visit one of our congressmen. I guess it was actually the Senate office, but the line was so long, there were so many people. We were a little leery at that time of being in crowds.
Oh, sure.
So we sort of backed away.
You can come up whenever you want,
Okay.
but
Call ahead.
yeah, but the other
Okay.
thing is like, we're going to be here a lot
Okay.
and out in the community. I mean, I really do want to, because I worked for a member of Congress in southeastern Ohio who was always home. And so people were just so used to seeing is Ted Strickland all the time. And I think that's really important for folks here to have as well.
Well, let me take this chance to welcome you to this area, to this new opportunity in your life, and
Thank you.
and new opportunity for all of us to get to know you. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate this.
Greg
Yeah.
Landsman,
Thank you.
Okay, happy holidays, happy New Year.
You too.
And we hope that if you are watching us today on Channel 6 or WCCS, the channel, the link on that website, or you can watch us on YouTube as well. We hope that you will continue to tune in and that you're feeling good. Bye for now.